Welcome to the Nonprofits. Our second segment this week takes us to Florida again. In Florida's District 38 state House race, Democrat Sarah Henry is challenging Republican incumbent David Smith in a rematch that's drawing attention for Smith's negative campaign tactics. Henry, a former communications associate for the American Humanist Association, has previously defended church-state separation on issues like Christian symbols in public land and state-sponsored prayer in schools. Smith's campaign attacks Henry by misrepresenting these stances, portraying her as anti-Christian and labeling her as a radical atheist who hates Christians. In the real world, Henry's platform centers on affordable housing, reproductive rights, public education, gun safety, and environmental protections. Smith's ads have raised eyebrows for focusing on Henry's beliefs rather than her policies, prompting criticism about the ethics of intentionally using religious bias in political attacks. Henry continues to counter these claims by emphasizing her ideas, which appeal to a broad base of Floridians regardless of religious background. This story is from The Friendly Atheist by Hemant Mehta on October 16th, 2024. And so I want to take this first to Kelly. Kelly, Smith claims that Henry's beliefs, or lack thereof, and her association with the American Humanist Association disqualifies her from office. Do his claims hold water, he says, knowing exactly what Kelly's going to say already.
You know what? First off, let's define humanism, right? And I've got it written down here because I'm dumb and I wouldn't have remembered it. Humanist beliefs stress the potential value and goodness of human beings, emphasize common human needs, and seek solely rational ways of solving human problems. Holy shit, wow. What a crazy radical idea that is.
There's radical atheism right there.
Can you see how we wouldn't want that in our politics? Holy crap, we got to keep that out of here. I want to say this guy has like the mentality of an NPC, but it's more like he has the mentality of a hole in the ground and not a freshly dug one even. Yeah, I just don't get it. Why? Like I said, why are those values that would not fit right into politics?
Exactly.
I have no idea why.
Yeah. So Stephen, let's take it over to you then. Mudslinging has been a common political tactic as long as there's been politics, right? So what effect do you think this tactic will have in this case, and what could we do to mitigate those effects?
Like it's so gross. I don't know. Like maybe I just have my head in the sand, but I personally don't get exposed to this type of vitriol in political advertising and anywhere. I don't know if that's just because Canadians are less prone to such, but it just seems like the perfect way to disenfranchise people from the whole process, because nobody wants that kind of no healthy person wants that kind of toxicity in their sphere, within their identity, within their political identity, right? So it means that we're going to keep intelligent people away, we're going to keep stupid people enraged, and we're going to keep empowered people in charge. That's all that this kind of garbage accomplishes, really, and just makes the whole discourse, the whole dialogue watered down from what exactly should be focused on. We should be looking at public policy, not just flinging crap about what this person is or isn't, and trying to gin up some fear about what it could possibly mean using buzzwords that people think that they understand. What do we do about it? I don't know.
Right, like building these evil straw man stereotype atheists that are out to get all Christians that the guy's talking about. So yeah, exactly. I totally agree with what Stephen just said.
Well, it seems like that's kind of the low-hanging psychological fruit, right? I mean, people react like there's knee-jerk reaction if you say certain words, and so hey, I'll just say those words, and that'll make everything happen, right? Let's jump over to
respond to that.
Sorry, go ahead. Say that again, Stephen.
Well, just that there are people whose brains are wired to respond that way. If you are motivated by fear, and then that is triggered in my brain. Okay, I got to do something now, and like that's a part of our society as well. We can't just say, well, sorry, no stupid people allowed to get. Stupid people don't get to vote. But it's complex. It's complex.
Yeah, I want to jump to Damien real quick here. Damien, we've been kind of hinting that maybe this type of thing should be restricted in some way, although, once you get down to the nuts and bolts, it might be a little tricky. Could you add anything about mudslinging as a tactic in general, and about harm from such a tactic, and how could it be mitigated?
Mudslinging as a tactic is as old as politics itself, is my observation. And look, American politics will do American politics things, and in a deep deep red state like Florida, it's almost a feature, not a bug, that someone will use the battleground of religion to push why they should be voted in and not the other person. In terms of mudslinging, unfortunately, unless you want to literally control what everybody says, sentence by sentence, word by word, then yeah, I don't think you are ever going to stop mudslinging. But I think that the best way to stop mudslinging is by stop rewarding it, and to educate the public to be more literate with how politics works. Because for the vast majority of people, they don't understand exactly how politics works, the nature of parliament, the voting system, things like that. Whereas for us who are a bit more politically astute and understand these things, and who actually have an active interest, yeah, we see this and go, oh, he's just throwing mud to the wall and seeing what sticks. Whereas to the average person who is, only slightly politically engaged, that they will see, the flyer in the letterbox and go, oh, this person says, children are doing witchcraft or stuff like that. So I think that the way we stop mudslinging is, one, to stop rewarding it, and two, teach people to be more engaged in civil politics.
So knowledge is power, kind of a thing.
Yeah, indeed. And so look, if you see the mudslinging that David Smith and his ilk are doing, and you like what he says, okay, you have the freedom to vote for him because you like his policies.
Right.
But I think the other way to stop it is to enact an authoritarian regime that literally dictates what you can and can't say. Like, you have to have your messages approved by some higher power, in which case it becomes, that's almost, I don't want to say fascist as a trope word, but when the government controls what you can and can't say, I think that enters a very dangerous territory.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. It's definitely something that it's easier said than done. If we say we want this to be restricted or regulated some way, that's one thing. But then, when the rubber meets the road, it's a different thing. And so it might be, it would be hard to do that without stamping on other rights that we would value and hold as something worthy. Kelly, I want to go over to you for a second. Stephen mentioned that just some people just think that way, right? And so it's a question of human psychology here. And so would you say that people that use these types of smear tactics, we know that they work. We know that these types of negative ads are effective in drawing voters. And so do you think that they're just hitting below the belt, or do you think that they're being very savvy politicians or savvy candidates here in utilizing, I was going to say manipulating, but you could take this,
go ahead,
you could interpret this in two different ways. Either you could view it as manipulating, or you could view it as interpreting or even catering to the human psyche. What's your take on that? Is this just bad politics, or is it good psychology?
It's it's both. Actually, if you think about it, it's good politics and good psychology, right? Because it's working, so it's good politics. It's a shit backing up shitty ideals, but it's working. So for politics, it's good. It's so funny that you would just ask me this too, because Stephen had mentioned that some people are kind of wired that way, and I was just having a conversation this morning about a sociologist from Canada, Manitoba, actually, Bob Altmaier, and he did a lot of studies on authoritarian mindsets, and his work was fascinating, and I couldn't remember if he was from Manitoba or Alberta, to be honest with you, so I went and looked him up, and sadly I found out he passed away last February. But I mean, he did some really, really amazing work on authoritarian mindsets, and he found that there were actually two groups of people, and that's why I said you can go ahead and say exploit, because that's what one of the groups of people do. They're the authorities, and they exploit the people who need to have an authority figure over them. They really cannot function in a society without being told what to do, and there are people who will come along and exploit that. And why people like this guy right here is so popular with his voters, is because he's got a whole bunch of people who have an authoritarian mindset that need to be told what to do, and he's coming along being the big bully, and it's working. It's great politics and it's great psychology.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Stephen, I want to. We've been talking about the candidate and about the victim candidate as well. But what's the media's responsibility in this? The media is providing the platform. Is the media is the tool that's being used to enact these types of ads and attacks and so forth? What's their responsibility in making sure information is presented accurately and in context and so forth?
Yeah, like it's a bit of a hot potato, right? I know one ruling that recently passed here in Canada that hasn't been popular is now social media sites such as Facebook. You are not allowed to post links to news articles in and disseminate those through your Facebook feed, and that's met with reactions from both sides saying, well, why is it being censored this way?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like it's at least one way that social media is being held accountable for the potential for spreading misinformation. Should media companies be held responsible for the messaging that they are putting out there? If they're a megaphone, do you sue the megaphone company for the messages that are being blasted out through that megaphone? I don't think it's going to be that simple, especially knowing that media companies are run by humans, and they are run by humans who want to be rich. Like, no matter which way you slice it, there's going to be people who can benefit and people who can be negatively impacted by these kinds of actions. And so it's going to come down to money. Media isn't it's a free enterprise. It's not the easy solution.
Right. Damien, I want you to build on what Stephen was just saying. So Stephen was suggesting that that's just the way it is. We're just gonna it's a hot potato, he said, and so we need to be careful when it comes to regulating or restricting free press, which is part of our First Amendment, along with the freedom of religion. And so, but do you think that we as a community, as consumers, should expect media to maybe police themselves rather than being having restrictions infringed on from the government? Would that be so? There was a day when news organizations would strive to have integrity and have a solid reputation for bringing the truth and for helping people and for educating the public. Do you think that those days are lost, or do you think that they would be welcomed back if even if there was somebody trying it, which there probably is, but obviously they're not very well known or not one of the biggies, right? And so do you think that maybe some self-regulation is an expectation that's realistic?
Well, look, in the establishment media already, like with TV, radio, and print, there are already codes of conduct that the media companies have to abide by as well. So, and given the fact that social media sites are essentially another form of media, I don't see too much of a problem with them having to adhere to policies. I think one of the biggest problems, though, is when you have jurisdictions that make laws on what a multinational social media site can and can't do. So Stephen was saying that in Canada, there's certain laws that Facebook have to apply by there. We are also talking about the same thing down here in Australia as well, not just on a federal level, but on a state level as well. So I think one of the biggest challenges you have is that how does a government stop a person in Dunghole, Wisconsin from violating a policy that's enacted by a Canadian government about a company that's based in California? Mm-hmm. You have all these different things. So I think we have to. I don't think the solution is shutting down voices. I think the better solution is a plurality of voices as well. So people have the ability to weigh up, what is a source saying? Where are they getting the information from? Is there a financial benefit to this person posting this political story? Is there a political bias? Things like that. I think the better education is not to restrict speech, but to open it up, but teach people how to judge nuance, how to discern, how to see how to balance sources. Teaching people how to be critical is how I think that we should go about it. about it.
I definitely. Sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
I'm about to say the problem I see with that is the George Carlin dilemma, right? That have common sense is the average intelligence isn't very smart, and half the people are dumber than that. So you're never going to be able to teach half the people that how to tell if it's a good source. Plus, we're going to have this certain population that we were just talking about that Robert Altmaier studied that aren't even going to bother to look. They're just going to take the authority figure's word for it and say, yeah, he's right because, he told me he was, and he's, powerful.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good. Yeah. But I suppose you are always going to have that problem in society. Like, even if you were in a society like, let's say, Harvard or, Oxford or, somewhere where there's like a world-class educational institution. And even inside those educational institutions, you have people with downright crazy, silly ideas as well. So
right. Stephen, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, well, I'm just curious. Like when I hear plurality, maybe there needs to be, the right-wing fear-mongering. Maybe there needs to be, the sane, rational, like, let's look at this critical, and maybe there needs to be like left-wing fear-mongering that, that will reach those people as well. Or, maybe, right? It doesn't seem to me that it's as thick, as heavy, as hard.
No, it's not. It's not anywhere near as popular, but it's definitely out there.
And that's the idea of the Overton window, right? That, when you have two positions that, you want to, odds are you'll end up in the middle somewhere.
Oh, yeah,
so
right.
We have political figures who are like, hey, if I stretch this far enough, that means that the middle will move in accordance. And so maybe is the response then to like, okay, let's get really extreme and talk about these, these blood cult extremists who want to, enforce their religion. Will that have the opposite effect? Will that garner them more votes? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that we, I can hear what you're all saying, and I agree. We definitely need to present the critical mind, the thoughtful mind, the reasonable mind. As a math teacher, I can say that I know full well that human nature is to be lazy thinkers. I say that all the time. Don't be a lazy thinker. Think hard things. Think difficult things. And so, Stephen, think harder. And so we want to make sure that we want to encourage people to not shy away from the difficult tasks of. Well, I suppose wasn't that JFK, right? We're not doing this because it's easy. We're doing it because it's difficult. And that's kind of the same thing too. If we want to have that integrity, as a nation, not just as a media outlet, but if we want to have that integrity and that respect, we need to show that we're willing to put in the time and to make the effort to understand the situation we're in. We have this, at least for now, we have this democratic system in the United States where people get to express their votes and to participate in the government. And so I think, at least part of the reasoning behind things like public education and that kind of thing is we want an educated population. And so it's easy to see that we all want to kind of push things in this direction where people aren't afraid to do the thinking, to consider different positions and different directions. Is that something that's possible? Okay, maybe that can be kind of our closing question here. We'll start with Kelly first. Do you think we're just wasting our time trying to encourage people to think critically and to utilize reason and that kind of thing? Do you think we're wasting our time and that people are just going to default to the easiest route no matter what?
I had that to me is a two-part question, right? Yes and no. I think there's a certain population that we could talk to until we're blue in the face and they're never going to freaking get it, right? But I think there's also a growing population of people that can hear and they are listening and they are educating themselves. And if you don't know how to educate yourself, if you've never done it before, great way to start is pick up a hobby. Start educating yourself about something that you like a lot, and that'll teach you how to educate yourself, and then you can start getting into some of the other things that you should be learning about. So
damn straight. And coming from a self-made scientist too, Kelly, that's well taken. That's a point well taken there. I want to jump over to Stephen. Do you think Kelly's on point there? Do you think this is something that can be done as somebody who spends a lot of time trying to communicate with people, trying to present ideas in such a way that so that others can understand them clearly. Do you think we're wasting our time with this? Do you think people are going to, like earlier tonight, Damien said, Americans are going to American, or I can't remember exactly how you said it, but are we kind of stuck in this rut, or is this a winnable fight here?
I don't think it's necessarily the end result, the outcome that matters the most. It's the journey, right? Like, if somebody needs to be doing this in order for humans to thrive for as long as possible, we need to be doing that hard work. So yeah, like even if it isn't a battle to be won, it's what we accomplish along the way that matters. So even if we don't get every person thinking the way that they should be, if we don't do the work that we're supposed to, then what chance is there that we're going to get anybody to do something? It's not the outcome that matters, but it's what we're doing along the way.
All right, Damien, I'll give you the last word. You've heard what Kelly and Stephen have to say about that. What are your thoughts? Is this a worthy battle, or is this a lost battle already?
Well, look, human history has carried on the backs of those who see the need for change and are willing to do something about it. However, I don't think, like, this problem has been going on for millennia. As long as there have been societies of people who believe things, you'll always have a certain section of the population that will believe extreme things, be on the left or the right. Mm-hmm. And you do have some smart people who believe some crazy things in general as well. So I think that the best way is to get your voice out there and try clearly explain your position, but also be willing to listen to other people's positions in case you get something wrong.
I think that's a great way to end the segment. Get your voice out there, be heard, but also be willing to listen. And if you're willing to listen to more of the nonprofits, then click on one of these links right here.